Hi guys. First of all, I would like to make an apology. I couldn't figure out how to get my PowerPoint up on the screen with my video cam. So I just put it on my laptop and I'm just using my parents' computer right now. I just wanted to make sure I got this incorporated with my video anyway. Today my speech is the freedom of speech on college campuses. Every day is getting harder and harder for conservative Republicans to come out and speak in public, especially on college campuses. If you are a public speaker and you are conservative, the chances are you're going to have a protest on your hands when you come out and give the speech are extremely high. In some cases, you may even become uninvited. This threatens our First Amendment rights. Freedom of speech is in danger to those of us with conservative values, and this is a tragedy. No matter what your values are, you should be able to speak them out loud without fear of being silenced. I want to speak to you from personal experience. I followed the presidential election last year very carefully. I noticed something unusual. People were actually being verbally and sometimes physically attacked for supporting Donald Trump. I have never seen this happen before, or at least not this severe. I personally supported the Republican candidate, even though I'm not the biggest fan of his personality. His what he supports value wise though is are the things I support as well, which is exactly why I followed him. I felt like I couldn't express my feelings though without being attacked. Facebook was the worst, honestly. I would try to be civil, have a civil conversation with friends, and I would end up getting unfriended. It seemed crazy to me. I thought it was just me because I know I'm in the minority as a teenager and a Republican. I couldn't understand why everyone was so angry. It didn't make any sense. I started to see the same thing happening around the world as reported on news stations. It was a mess. As we know, Donald Trump won the election. Even after he won, it was hard to go out and talk about supporting him. I was 16 at the time. Most of my friends were Democrats. They wouldn't even listen to my views. I was called racist and sexist and a lot of other horrible things. For a while, I thought I was alone in my experience. In the end, I found out Republican students all over the United States are being treated the same way. In an article I found in the Daily Caller, a Cornell student, the president of the Student Republican Party, was called racist and was a victim of a violent assault because of her political beliefs. While I encourage students to express their views, this has become a huge problem on college campuses. The most frightening thing, though, is that it is affecting our freedom of speech. It looks as though liberal students on many college campuses are trying to block Republican or conservative speakers from speaking. They are doing it through massive protests, and it is working. College campuses are stopping right-wing conservatives from speaking. When Milo Yiannopoulos, a sometimes controversial right-wing speaker, went to work at UC Berkeley this year, students became violent, set fires, started fights, and knocked down physical barriers. The police had to use tear gas and rubber bullets on students because they were being too aggressive and resisting arrest. Milo did not end up speaking at the event. In addition, according to the Los Angeles Times, the protest cost about $100,000 in damage. The First Amendment to the Constitution gives us all the right to freedom of speech. You have to let someone speak, even if you disagree with them. Having communication with people who you disagree with is more effective than starting fires. I think when people act out in violence, they they think they are being heard. Typically, I feel this turns people who are undecided against those who are being violent. Another example happened in April this year when, according to The Humanist, Ann Coulter, a conservative speaker who I even don't agree with, was stopped from speaking at the same college with police when police couldn't guarantee her safety. In these cases, unfortunately, student threats were able to stop speakers. The speakers don't get to speak. Their rights were taken from them. What happened to accepting people? What happened to appreciating diversity? An argument for some people might be in favor of protesters, but because they also have the right to protest and their right to free speech, it is also important to note that the First Amendment doesn't protect disruptive protesters. The following list is provided by Richard Epstein, a law professor at NYU, which lists some important points when it comes to this type of thing in the First Amendment. Protests can't disrupt the speech. Any threats of violence and the constitutional protections of free speech are gone. Freedom of speech does not have limitations similar to other limitations that are imposed on our everyday behavior. You can't criminally trespass, you can't disrupt by force. Criminal trespass and violence don't become protected just because the protesters dislike speakers' views. I think what people are failing to see is that college campuses have both Republican and Democrat students. We never hear about Republican students trying to stop Democrats from speaking. We never hear about them walking out. We never see college campuses uninviting Democratic speakers. It seems that freedom of speech is defined differently for people of different political views. I want to provide with an example I found. Please watch this short clip by Judge Jeanine of a liberal protester protesting a speaker.
Nobody has the right to speak.
God, can we have a civil conversation?
You want to call me uncivil? Because
No, I didn't call you anything.
Trump, these white people that think that they get to say, I thought you were
Tolerance of what?
I'm not tolerant.
Do you know the First Amendment?
No. There's no First
The First Amendment protects people from bigotry and hatred. The First Amendment protects free speech.
Nobody has the right to speak. If you disagree,
Your views are hatred.
you don't know my views. You don't know my views. You don't know my views. No, this is a free country. First Amendment rule, okay?
First Amendment is
Free
very
press.
Muslim.
I think we need the peace for all the world.
First
Peace.
Amendment, honey. First Amendment.
We need peace.
Okay, we need peace. All right, get up here. No! Stop! It's my camera. All right, wait a minute. The First Amendment protects free speech. I'm not a honey, I'm a judge, sweetheart, so stop.
My First Amendment.
My favorite part of the video right there.
You know what?
This is a serious problem in our country right now. It happens a lot, actually. You can find several different videos like that from a few different reporters that go on the streets and record things like that. In conclusion, students on college campuses should feel free to protest peacefully. They have the right to attend the speeches of people they disagree with and ask them tough questions. They have the right to ask questions that put the speaker on the spot. That is more effective for your argument than violence and not allowed speakers to speak. So what happened to civil conversations? So help me spread the word. Students, allow anyone and everyone to speak on your campuses. Go to the speech, ask hard questions. Engage in a civil debate, peacefully protest outside the building. Do whatever you want. Don't take away Americans' right to free speech, though. It is a sad day for us all when violence and intolerance replaces speech and conversation. And here are all of my resources.